Well, for us, having a very, resilient operation with business continuity built in about it, so maintaining overhead stocks, um, prioritizing staff, all in advance, I think led for a seamless process for us. And I think a lot of our supplier risk management that played a huge piece in this prior to the COVID situation, that it meant a very seamless. It seemed seamless in the first wave, which is much different as we moved through into what we would say is now the second wave. And kind of the first lesson of business continuity is you deal with one disaster at a time. And what we're seeing now with COVID, that we're seeing 2, 3, 4 different things hitting the entire supply chain all at the same time. And a lot of times we're all vying for the exact same resources, the 300 millimeter chipset, very limited suppliers for them around the world. But then throw in, government regulations, the port authorities being backed up. You're seeing multiple instances that you really can't control those more than like you did in the first wave. We, like many companies, were looking at business continuity. We had continuity plans, and that's really about maintaining. And the company was really in a transformation, and we have been for a number of years as we transform into a healthcare company, a health tech company, and that allowed us to entirely change our shift from continuity to resilience. Just as Tracy was mentioning, we have been on a long road that we've set a path, and as well as having that operational resilience built in, taking those silos and bringing them into single tool sets where we're all communicating with each other, working through the third party monitoring, and that was all started. So when it came time for that first wave, we were pretty confident. Other than really getting into understanding some terminologies, what's essential, what's non-essential, and how did that translate for other companies that we dealt with. And I think that we really start to see that come to light now. But I'd also go back to mention that some of the things that that we try to look at is never waste a good disaster as you look to how to improve your process, because you do have a lifespan. 9/11 had a lifespan of where you could do investment, change programs, and even new companies emerged out of that. And I think that we entered into this, and as I said, we had this roadmap, and the actual term that got phrased throughout our organization was the triple duty of care. And that is something that is very ingrained into the Philips organization. And where that is number one is resilience, is number one, customers, employees, that's within our triple duty of care. So I think that, any disaster can help you improve. And I think as we do look at this second wave, that I think there's a lot of things that have to change, because everybody was moving toward thinning that supply chain line to streamline it. And that streamlining brings us to where we're at today, is that we need to kind of maybe widen that the depth of it. And we've done that through engaging with a couple of organizations that we really see end to end, from raw materials to the customer, and partnering and looking at how we mature the supply chain integrity throughout. We've entered into a partnership with this group, and it is suppliers, providers, hospitals, and we are all collaborating and working toward creating an open environment of where we can share, but yet we can build an end-to-end view of, as I mentioned, from raw materials through the customer, partner, patient at the very end, and having that transparency through to through. And there's a lot of trust that has to happen there, that the things that you could imagine that could go wrong, and being very open like that. But we're trying that, and trying to find the standards that other, our competitors are in the same forum, and we're having the same conversations, trying to answer not only future and current customers, but to increase share through being forthcoming and saying, yes, this event is impactful, or this is how we process this, or this is how we do business continuity for this, and so that they have an understanding. Just as we go out and do our own supplier risk management, in turn, the customers want to come back and do the same thing to us and to say, what have you done? What are you doing? And I think that like the financial industry, I think other industries have to find that same stream of sharing and collaboratively working together, and knowing that it is the global economy forces us to think differently. It's not about being a single border, a single country, a single town. That you have to look across that entire spectrum, because we're all drawing materials from multiple and same vendors in many spaces. When you look at the sheer amount of data that we process on threat and risk to the organization, and then turn that around and say that I would say that 99% of most, if we say crisis or a disaster for an organization, that having that intelligence and knowing what to do about it or with that information is key. So crisis management will solve so many things before they ever get to be an issue for an organization. Having the business continuity plan is important, having crisis management, but I tend to refer a little bit more about the planning spectrum of taking those things that happen locally small, the hazmat situation that develops quickly, that you've got first responders on scene, then you have a crisis management incident, then we're shutting down a part of your building or your facility, so now we're into a business continuity, and then you get to a situation where, let's just say, a tanker spill or something, where you have to evacuate your building and actually shut the power down to your building, where you have a full disaster of shutting down a data center, your operations, and having that ability, but working that crisis management team to have the knowledge of how to respond and pair that against the intelligence that's coming in. And to me, that's where you get that holistic approach to the entire thing.